Koe, Mr. Speaker, kia ora tātou. Katoa i tēnei pō, nau mai hoki mai ki ngā mahi o te pō, o tira ngā mahi o te kāwanatanga. Mr. Speaker, earlier today the Minister of Health outlined the strong actions taken by teachers at Rangitoto College in Auckland to protect the health and safety of students recently returning from Mexico. They took actions which demonstrated compliance with what I used to refer to as the NAGS, National Administration Guidelines to uphold and protect the health and safety of their students. And from the Maori Party perspective, this bill adds to that record by fixing up some of the policy gaps which could make our students rather vulnerable. Mr. Speaker, one of the key issues initiated from this bill are the amendments surrounding the question of registration or authorisation for teachers to teach. According to the Teachers' Council in 2007, an estimated 3,500 teachers working in New Zealand schools were unregistered. 3,500. This means that there were 3,500 people who have not been vetted by the police or have in place a current practising certificate to show that they're fit to work. Even more disturbing was the admission late last year that there was an unknown number of unqualified people teaching in the country's primary and secondary schools. The admission from the former Minister of Education, the Honourable Chris Carter, was that unregistered teachers are undermining the profession and that the public concern could arise if it was found that there were significant numbers teaching without a current practising certificate or authorisation. Mr. Speaker, I'd have to say we find that rather shocking as an admission from the former the Minister. When we take our car to the garage, we expect that the mechanic will be qualified to know one end of the carburettor from the other, one would hope. Similarly, if we suffer from the pain of a toothache, we expect that the dental surgeon will have some skill to know what to do with the decaying tooth. So why should it be that we would risk exposing our children to teachers who are not registered or qualified to take on the responsibility of learning and teaching? So surely the education of our future leaders must be something that we invest in and take seriously. We must protect the professional quality of the teaching sector. We must maintain teaching standards, and we must do both in the best interest of the student population. Mr. Speaker, in our policy document, He Hate Mea Nui, the Maori Party policy document, we considered the notion, a very good policy document. Oh, okay. Well, we'd just like to add a little bit more that the Maori Party brings to the debate, which is about considering the notion of moving towards standards of cultural competency, which comes off, I suppose, the back of the developments around the Kotaitanga project. So I was just signalling that if it is that there is an acceptance of cultural incompetency, almost signalled by the Kotaitanga project, in the teaching profession, then the Maori Party intends to address that in the near future. So we support the moves in this bill to enable the Teachers' Council and the Ministry of Education to share data about whether teachers have current registrations in place or not. This was an initiative which the former government introduced, and Minister Tolley has now advanced this into legislation. It is a move which we understand has the support of the teacher unions and of the School Trustees Association, and now indeed the Maori Party. We believe that information matching will ultimately lead to the potential to raise the educational performance of students, and that should be supported. Mr. Speaker, we note that there are a range of fines which can be instigated for those boards who fail to employ registered teachers. Boards who employ unregistered teachers can incur a fine of up to $5,000, while the unregistered teacher themselves can incur a $2,000 fine. But surely the greatest penalty will be where the educational prospects of our students are compromised or hindered in any way by people who lack the skills and indeed the capacity to support and promote mātauranga, the love of learning. So while the information matching proposals are supported, the amendments to place some management around the mechanisms for police vetting are a very positive development on the former bill. This bill removes the requirement of all contractors to be police vetted and replaces it with the requirement to vet only those who are likely to have unsupervised access to children at schools and early childhood centres. This change has come about from very strong reaction from the education sector to what they saw as being a rather over-the-top approach. The education sector has told us very clearly that such measures would create immediate problems for school communities by setting artificial barriers beyond which volunteers would be barred from entry into the schools. Sir Sheridan McKinley of Ngāti Kahungunu Ngaitahu background as a researcher has written about the perspectives of Maori parents as they consider their aspirations for their children's schooling. The research report entitled Maori Parents in Education, ko ngā mātua Māori me te mātauranga, identified a very key conclusion, that how well Māori children do at school is strongly linked with how well parents and children relate to school staff. So, if you want to, just think about the possible scenarios that could have occurred with the previous proposals. A kuia, for example, decides that she has some hours, she has some spare time to assist with helping her mokopuna children to read at school. A young dad on shift work decides he will give up some valuable sleep time maybe to help coach the school rugby team at lunchtime. Koro decides he'd like to spend or support the kohanga reo by just turning up where and when he can. So imagine the reaction for their whānau, where upon arriving at the school or the centre, they're taken off down to the police station for a police check. As someone who has had a fair bit of experience in the school education sector, I want to make it quite clear that every school benefits from the enormous contributions of volunteers from throughout the community. They run the cake stalls, the sausage sizzles, they go on camp, they help out at the marae, they have a school marae, they help out on sports days, they provide the transport, they supervise the school discos and so on. They are there in big numbers. As a nation, the volunteers who keep our communities afloat contribute more than $3 billion to the economy. But this is more than about simply dollars. Helping our schools to be a reflection of their community is an important goal in its own right. Strong communities come from everyone feeling that they have a role to play through their participation and ongoing contribution. And during times of economic downturn, such a role is even more important in the growth of resilient and thriving communities. Mr. Speaker, we support the amendments which minimise needless police vetting and rapidly downscale the compliance costs that would have landed on school administrations. Finally, this bill proposes some minor changes to the current processes for teacher complaints and disciplinary measures. In essence, it enables the Complaints Assessment Committee to suspend a teacher's practising certificate for up to 3 months if that teacher is being investigated on a complaint of serious misconduct by the committee, the employer or the police. It seems a thoroughly sensible mechanism, as other speakers have alluded to. Indeed, the possibility that a teacher could still be teaching while under investigation for serious misconduct is surely one that should not be entertained. Mr. Speaker, these measures are sound, they're sensible, and most of all, they're effective approaches towards ensuring health and safety issues are regarded as a priority in our schools and early childhood communities. For these reasons, sir, we will be supporting this bill. Kia ora tātou.
Kelvin.